You don't chase that breakout. You wait for the right retracement point, and then you say, okay, this should be the next spot where it should hold. If it doesn't hold, I get that out quick, take the small loss. If it does hold, I make a great next second leg of moves also, where I might miss that first one and not beat myself up over it. I've done that before, beat myself up for missing something.
Yeah, tell
That
me,
pays you
tell
no,
me what your
that
biggest
pays you
one.
no dividends. What's
We've
that?
we've all learned from our we always
Sure.
have like that old girlfriend that destroyed our life. You know what I mean? And like, what was like your biggest lesson you've learned? You know, and also the biggest opportunity you probably screwed up on. I mean, listen, we've all been there. We've done it.
Yes.
There are more people going out of this business and trading more that are in the business of trading. And I always tell everybody, like you just mentioned, like before, and not to change the subject, but like there are points in time where you've gone all in. You know, you cite blackjack, you got 2 aces. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
what we supposed to do?
You're still only
Just
80
hit.
or 81. You have pocket aces. You're only 80 or 81% to win, right? So
Yeah,
you
right.
learn
You know,
that.
so
That still means if you go all in, you will blow up 1 out of 5 times, right? So so the idea is, yeah, we want to limit that risk of ruin a lot better than 20% of the time you're gone. That's too high. So, but yeah, like you said, Fausto, my early mistakes were. I went through a great educational environment and was a graduate from Duke University in the late 80s, and frankly thought I knew it all, right? And frankly thought, well, if I work harder than everybody else, because that's what our schooling teaches us in our school system here. It's what your careers and whatever job you are, folks. We know that you advance because you're right a lot, because you work hard, you're right, you make good decisions, and then basically you're like, okay, that's how I got promoted. That's how I grew my business. That's how I rose the corporate ladder, whatever it is. So all that training that we have to be right all the time, you come into trade, you're like, I want to be right all the time because that's what's worked for me in school. It's worked for me in my prior career. Being right all the time will not happen in the stock market. It just won't. And so I don't care if you read all these things that tell you, oh, I've got a 90+% win rate or on, way out of the money credit spreads or whatever. It's like, well, when you're wrong, then you get blown up. People that sell naked options, there's been brilliant Wall Street geniuses who made a fortune and then lost all of it back. Whether you look at long-term capital management that precipitated one of the prior financial crises or whatever else. It's like all these brainiacs still can blow themselves up because their strategy is most of the time right, but when it's wrong, it's just
screwed.
Death. It's death, right? They shut down the fund because they're not gonna come back from that drawdown. So, but as you said before, like managing your losses, controlling your drawdown, allowing you to stay in the game is such a big part of it. But yeah, I've gotten sucked into the hype, sucked into the next story stock or story sector or whatever. Even these quantum stocks that recently ran, the quantum sector was big late last year, right around the Trump election, right? So if you look at quantum stocks, they all crashed 50% or more, right? Some of them are coming back, but yet a lot of them are not even anywhere close to the buy that they were for me in the first leg up in the September, October, November, December. But even on a few of those, whether it's like SoundCloud, IonQ, CubeUBT, I was too late getting out on some of those and locking down profits. I should have locked down profits earlier. And what happens, Fausto, is what I recommend, especially from an option trader, but even the stock traders, is I'm a huge fan of anything that you can double, sell half of it. And why do I say that? Because if you're making money, let's say I've got like Apple and it doubles and it goes on to be a 10 bagger or whatever over the past couple decades, true. But if you sold half of it and then you keep the other half, you're still pretty darn happy. If you sold half of it and it tanks back down to break even, you still made 50%. And especially when you're dealing with the fast moving world of options like we do, selling half at a double, it just is such a psychological freer up or of giving yourself a chance to let the rest run. And so we've actually come up with what we call hybrid strategies, Fausto, where what we do is now we'll even sell stuff faster than a double on half. We'll sell 2/3 out at 50% gain. That still works out to be a free trade. If you run some cool math, it's like you could sell 80% of your position, 80% of your position. Say I have 5 contracts, I sold 4 of my contracts, 80% of my position at only a 25% profit in option. That could happen in minutes. And you say, okay, and now that one last runner, we had a trade on Apple, I think it was last year, where basically we sold 80% of it, just a 25% gain, and the other one contract went to like a 2,000% gain. It's one of those things that's not going to happen that often, right? But
no,
the idea is
it's the right place, the right time.
we wouldn't have hung on for a 2,000% gain, because you would say, oh, I'll take the triple, I'll take the 200%, or I'll take the 300%. And so by having the free trade and just saying, let's let it run, let's just see what happens on some of these, and you'll be amazed at how letting it run, once you don't let it run without getting your risk capital off. Once you get your risk capital back, letting it run is a great strategy, especially for options traders. And it's about the only time, Fausto, that I will actually take an earnings trade with options is if I've already sold out my risk capital piece. If I already have my money back into our clients' accounts to say, we can free roll on the rest, whether it's one contract or whether it's multiples, it's saying you get your risk capital back, then you can take a shot. We did it with Palantir, and we lost on that last tiny piece, but we still made about 70% composite on the trade, because we
Don't
sold
even
part at
bring up
100.
Palantir. I mean,
We
I
sold part.
bought
Well,
that.
this is what I'm saying. We sold part at 100%, part at 200%. The last piece.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it today.